That 70s Remodel, a Build Original series, is brought to you by Huber Engineered Woods.
This home started with all the usual 1970s problems. Dated design, poor insulation, and inefficient materials that just couldn't keep up with today's standards. But this isn't just a cosmetic update, it's a full performance overhaul, and that starts with the building envelope. Upgrading the enclosure to Zip System R sheeting helped us boost the home's thermal performance while streamlining our install. It gave us a continuous exterior insulation and a built-in water-resistant barrier all in one step. In Utah's variable climate, we rely on Zip System products for both remodels and new builds. They help us manage moisture, air leakage, and insulation without overcomplicating the wall assembly. With Zip System and AdvantTech, we get fewer steps, faster installation, and job site durability that holds up even when the weather doesn't cooperate. These are trusted brands among top builders for a reason: reliability, performance, and ease of use on real-world job sites. Learn more and check out available rebates at huberwood.com. Hey guys, I'm Stephanie Daly with Stephen Daly Construction, and today we are at That 70s Remodel here in Sandy, Utah. Let's talk a little bit about this project. I want to walk you through the different phases of the remodel, the challenges, the things that we run into, the things that we need to account for anytime we're doing a remodel or renovation. And we're going to show you this entire project from start to finish. Let's get going. We are going to start out here in the garage of That 70s Remodel, and the first thing I want to show you is how this house was actually constructed back in 1979. So we have cardboard sheeting on the outside of this entire house, and that's the reflective that you're seeing here inside of the open stud cavities in the garage. Now, back in 1979, when they were using this stuff all of the time, it was just a normal building material. This is something that we would personally not use today. There are some builders in other markets that do still use cardboard sheeting. If you've watched some of Matt's videos, you've seen that, and it is not top of our favorites list, that's for sure. So we're gonna get rid of all this cardboard sheeting that's on the outside of the house. And then everything that we have outside of that is purely aesthetic. So from this cutout that you can see here in the wall, all we have is a brick wall structure that is built outside of the cardboard sheeting. Now, the entire exterior of this house is not brick. It has a combination of some siding materials and brick. We've got a solid soffit, an unvented soffit, but yet we have an attic that has two gable vents on either end, and those gable vents are just purely letting air into the attic space, and that is the only inlet or outlet for that air. So we're gonna be coming through, we're gonna strip the entire roof, we're gonna get the insulation out of the roof, we're gonna get the cardboard sheeting off of the exterior of this entire house, and we're gonna start fresh right from the studs. So you're not gonna wanna miss this video. Let's go inside and talk to Brett a little bit more about starting a blower door test at this stage. I have my friend Brett here from Indoor Air Seal. Brett, thank you for coming up here.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So this house is probably a little different than what you're used to testing. I imagine the majority of what you test is new construction?
Nowadays, that's typically what we do, but I love coming into older homes and seeing the transformation.
Yeah, this is a really cool one. So this house built in 1979. Has a lot of pretty poor building techniques on it. We've got some really leaky building materials on the outside. The windows aren't all that great. And I know you've mentioned you saw a few things that stand out to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even fired the fan up, and this canvas here is already flapping. That shows a difference in air pressure inside the house already.
Interesting. Well, our goal today is to test the existing house. We are gonna see where it sits, how leaky it is. And then starting tomorrow morning, we're demoing. We're gonna rip the entire outside off of this house all the way down to the interior drywall. That way we can re-insulate. We're gonna sheet it with a Zip R6, which is gonna be fantastic. Will give us some exterior insulation, plus the Zip is always great for that outdoor weather barrier.
Yep.
and then put new materials on the outside. So let's get going.
Great.
Let's get the blower door test going. Would you mind walking us through what you do and
Sure.
what the process is?
Yeah. So we, the ultimate goal is we want to depressurize the house to where it simulates as if there was a 20-mile-an-hour wind against every exterior surface.
Okay.
And we do that by setting up this canvas door, putting the fan in it. The fan sucks air from inside the house, blows it outside the house. And this device here measures the pressure differences and the volume, and it does all the hard work, and it shows us how much air is being exchanged every hour in this house.
And what would today's tight house be as far as an ACH?
So the parameters that we are supposed to hit in new construction right now is between 3 and 3.5 air changes per hour.
Okay.
So that's a pretty tight parameter to try to hit.
Yeah, it's a small window.
Especially when you're building a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot house.
Right.
So that's what we're shooting for on today's standards.
Okay.
Yep.
And back when these houses were built, this didn't exist. Nobody really cared how leaky these houses were back in the 70s. So
right.
This house was never meant to be tested. So we're going to kind of run it through the ringer and see just how tight it is.
Yep.
So
Love it.
what's our first step? Now you've got it all set up. This took you a few minutes, and where do we go from here?
Yep, so I've set this up. I've gone around the home and made sure that all of the exterior doors and windows are closed.
Okay.
Made sure that the HVAC system is off because we don't want anything to manipulate or give us a false reading.
Okay.
So HVAC systems are off, exterior doors, windows, all that are closed. So now we go and get a pressure reading, kind of a baseline. So what this does is it measures the pressure difference from inside the house versus outside the house to help when it equates and figures out all the math.
Perfect.
So we've done that, and now we just need to fire up the fan and depressurize the house. And we're going to set this fan to find a pressure of negative 50 pascals.
Okay.
So we've already come in and put the volume of the home and the square footage. So now we need to set the pressure for the fan. So we're going to go there, have it seek to find a negative 50 pascal pressure. Which turns the fan on.
So now that we have done the test, our baseline that we're going to use when we get to the end when the house is remodeled, where were we at today?
So today, at negative 50 pascals of pressure, the air changes per hour were right around 7.2 to 7.5.
Okay.
Varies a little bit. The CFM, we were right about 3,100 CFM.
Wow.
So as it sits right now, this home is double what today's standards are.
It's amazing to see the difference in building materials and the difference in building construction and the way things were done in the 70s versus today.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see the steps we're going to take and how those are going to alter this test. We will be doing this test again as soon as the house is done, and we'll compare the two and see where we're at. But starting first thing tomorrow morning, you guys, this house is being stripped, and you're not going to want to miss the adventure that this has in store for us. I have a feeling we're going to run into a lot of mold, probably a lot of water leakage, just based on the way the outside of this house looks. So stay tuned. All right, guys, I want to bring you here around to the back side of the house. We've got a little bit of the original siding overhead that's still left on the house and some of the original sheeting. So this house was built in 1979. As we did our original walkthrough to kind of get an idea of scope of work and what we were working with, we knew that it did have some cardboard sheeting on the outside of it because the interior of the garage was unfinished. But really we're kind of unaware of everything else that was underneath the structure. A few interesting things we learned as we started tearing the house apart. There was some siding over the top of this, which really only consisted of an additional sheet of cardboard that had some almost like drywall mud texture over the top of it and then painted. Now over the top of that, they had laid some wooden battens, which is what we're seeing here. And behind nearly every piece of this material was mold. We could see from the exterior before we started that there was quite a bit of rot and damage, so we knew we were going to be running into a little bit of that, but quite a bit of mold on this house. So strip the exterior. Our goal here is to get all the way down to the studs, and then we're going to rebuild the structure from the inside out. So as we're getting this cardboard sheeting off, some of the things that we're running into that we didn't account for and are actually really unique here in Utah, we found some termite damage. So let me show you what that looks like. This is a really great example of kind of what we've been finding throughout the entire house. It's not a huge infestation, but we have found areas where there is clearly termite damage. Now, this is something that you can't just cover back up. I know there are probably people out there that would just come through and treat it and cover it right back up. But a lot of this rotten wood, especially in this case, where it's a trimmer and a king stud for this particular door, we're gonna wanna strip those out and replace them with new wood that has not got termite damage. In addition to that, we are also going to have the home treated for termites to stop or prevent any future or additional damage. So that's a big one. You'll see similar damage happening on this side of this same door as well. So these studs we're gonna get stripped out today, get these replaced, and be ready next week for our insulators to come through. A couple other interesting or really unique things that we found in this house that we're gonna have to correct as we're doing the construction. You can see here the way that they poured the original concrete steps on this house. One of the homeowners actually removed the concrete steps off the back of the house. So we're actually gonna take this piece out, and I'll show you the other door that we've already done it on. We'll come through and frame a nice landing so that it meets code with a set of stairs out both of these back doors, get rid of the concrete, do a much better job of flashing and making this watertight. A few other big things that we've realized that we ran into during this construction process are insulation issues. We've got some old fire damage, some really unique stuff happening on this. So let's go back around to the front, over to the garage. I'm gonna show you what it looks like when there's actually been a fire at a house in the past and how we're gonna take care of it and make sure that the lumber is top notch now while we've got it ripped open. Let's go over there. So at some point, there was a fire on this RV pad on the side of the house. You could see some of the damage on the exterior of the brick in particular. Kind of surprising that the wood battens didn't have any severe fire damage on them. But the exterior brick wainscot that was on the side, the brick was seriously damaged from the fire or from the heat. So once we got the exterior stripped, we were able to actually see that we have some fire damage that is in these existing studs. And even all the way up through the edge of our sheeting on the roof, it actually has char marks across it. Now, this lumber is still, the majority of it is still in good shape. Some of it is just smoke damage and looks worse than it actually is. But we're at this point, you've got this thing opened up. Now is the time to replace it. It's now or never. If you're going to do a remodel of this scale, make sure that when you run into little issues like this, that you have some extra money or a contingency that's in your budget so that you can take care of this stuff now and not just leave it and wait for the future. So this fire damage is gonna get torn out. We'll replace the lumber. Anything that seems like it needs to be replaced, we'll go through and replace. Now, another interesting thing on this west side of the house here, this is a really shady portion of the house halfway through the day. You're gonna get a lot of snow and a lot of water here in Utah. This is gonna build up and not gonna melt quite that easy, especially with these really large trees around us. Another interesting fact on this side is there is very little, it's about 2 inches of overhang on the roof on this side of the house. Now, we don't build houses the way that this has been built, but what we're gonna do at this point before we dry the roof in today is we're actually gonna replace the roof sheeting on this side. We're going to need to come through and add a fascia board. Right now, they just had a little piece of wood that was attached to the sheeting that was sticking out. So I'll show you what that looks like currently. We're gonna add a fascia board. We're gonna make sure that we have a proper overhang on this side of the house to protect this window opening from getting any leaks. Even though it's a garage, you still wanna make sure that you're protecting yourself in any way you possibly can to avoid water leaking in. So 2 things that we're gonna do here on the garage side, and it's, like I said, always good. When you rip these houses open and you run into issues, you might as well fix them now. So a few other things that we noticed as we started doing demolition on this project that we had not planned on doing on the original remodel. As we were coming through, we started noticing that the main floor of the house did not have air conditioning. So when we went to an HVAC contractor to see if he could just add air conditioning to the existing furnace, we realized that the entire system is actually really hodgepodge put together. We actually realized that we have different brands from different manufacturers that are making up the current HVAC system. It's just kind of been pieced together over the years to make sure it works. So at this point, with this becoming a rental for my client, we have decided to actually rip out the entire HVAC system and replace it, including the condensers. And we know we're gonna have to add a second condenser to get air conditioning on the main level of this house. So we're gonna need to pull some additional wire. These are just little things that when we start doing a remodel and you start to realize what is outdated, if you're gonna come through and fill these entire cavities with spray foam insulation and then wrap the entire outside of this house in an insulated zip-R sheeting, but yet the interior HVAC equipment is poor and hardly running at best, you're kind of fighting yourself in one way or another. So we're gonna create this really incredible envelope around the outside of this house. We might as well replace the equipment inside. So that's what we've decided to do with the HVAC system, which is a bonus. It'll give us air conditioning on the main floor. We also get to run our line sets that are currently ran on the outside of the building inside the house, so those now become invisible. That's another huge benefit to tearing the entire outside of the house. Let's go out front, and I want to address a couple of comments that I've gotten about stripping the exterior of the house during weather conditions. This has actually been an incredibly wet last few days here in Utah, which is really rare. We don't get monumental rain like we have this week, but timing is what timing does, and we can't control the weather, so we just learn to deal with it. At this point, you can see we have exterior studs and the interior drywall that is completely exposed. Big rainstorm is gonna take that drywall, absorb a bunch of water, and create a bunch of damage, which we don't wanna do. Timing is key, and we've really done a great job of lining all the trades up to come in one after another. But with that being said, we have a weekend coming up tomorrow and 2 days of rain, so we need to get the house protected. The first thing we did this week that really has made a big difference is we chose not to pull all the windows and doors until the very last day. So all these windows and doors are gonna get pulled today. The main floor is gonna get covered in plywood so that we can protect those openings and make it secure. The upper level and the rest of the outside of the house, we're actually gonna nail up some visqueen fabric, some visqueen plastic, and drop the sheet from top to bottom and just cover the exterior walls. So the whole house is gonna get tented at the end of the day today. The other thing that we did in order to prepare for weather was we chose not to strip the shingles on the roof. Until the very last minute. So that's exactly what we're doing right now, is we're stripping all the shingles off the roof, and we have the roofing contractor that'll be here in about 2 hours to get the roof resheeted in areas that need it and dried in. What do I mean by areas that need it? Some of the sheeting on this roof is soft or squishy or has had damage from whatever it may be throughout the years. Now, with it being stripped all the way down to plywood, now is the time to replace those sheets if there are sheets that are damaged. There was 2 layers of shingles that were on this roof, and they were not very great or well installed, I should say, in the first place. So there is a bit of water damage on the roof. So we're gonna come through and replace the sheets of plywood that we need to in order to get a good sturdy structure. And then the roofing contractor today will get the entire roof dried in, so it's protected through the storms this weekend. The plastic wrapped around the entire outside of the house will protect the drywall from getting wet during the storms, as well as protect all the openings once we pull these windows out. Now, the rest of the schedule is gonna go really smoothly. We have some interesting things we're gonna do with insulation. We have some framing things that we need to take care of. We're gonna be ordering new, better, more energy efficient windows for the home. Like I said, we're gonna be sheeting the outside of this house in zip-R, which gives us a continuous insulation around the exterior. I'm super excited about that. The zip-R product is one that we've really struggled to get to use here in northern Utah because of our seismic zone. This house, the engineer was able to make it work, so we are really, really looking forward to see how this goes. Once we have the exterior sheeted, we are going to get it taped, and then we're going to be doing all new exterior materials. So we'll have a natural stone, which we've thin cut, and then we're going to be doing a stucco product around the rest of the house. So stay tuned, follow That 70s Remodel as we go through this process. We're going to show you all the bumps in the road, because I think remodels are something that most people want to do these days, especially with the cost of interest rates and construction. Remodeling is a great option for your current home. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of bumps, and a lot of weird things that you're going to run into during a remodel, and that's the kind of stuff that we're not seeing on all the HGTV shows that we're watching online. So we're going to show you the bad things. We're going to show you the things that we run into. We're going to show you the hiccups and the things that you should or shouldn't replace when you're doing a remodel. So stay tuned, follow That 70s Remodel. You guys can follow me on Instagram or TikTok to see more videos, and stay tuned for more of That 70s Remodel on The Build Show.